Hey there.
Oh, we did.
Hi, Elsa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I can just barely see the top of your head.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hi. There
Hi.
you are. Hey. So what time is it there when in Louisville?
I think it's 7:03 or something.
Oh, so it's the same. It's the
Yeah.
same. I
Yeah.
thought you were an hour earlier. But you know what time it is here? It's cocktail hour. I'm
Excellent.
pouring martinis so while we talk.
Awesome.
So this is my first Instagram live ever. So we'll see how it goes. I'm glad I'm doing it with you.
I'm so honored to be talking with you.
So cheers.
Cheers.
So,
And
this was so weird for me that I actually even brushed my teeth. They came down and did
it's nerve-wracking. It's
Yeah, but hi. So we're here because our mutual friend, Nina Johnson, has a show of your work up right now.
yeah.
And so tell me about how you first met Nina and how the show came about. Oops.
I guess you're cutting out a little bit, but I met
Yeah,
Nina
you cut
through
out on me too.
our
Can you hear?
friend.
Can you hear me? No.
It's
Yeah,
cutting out.
I know. Hmm, that's strange.
Yeah.
Cause I could. It, hmm, hmm, hmm.
But am I coming through? Am I
No, you're all
breaking up?
blurry to me. Am I blurry to you?
Yeah, you're all blurry to me. I can only hear every fifth word.
Wow. I don't know. That's so strange. Good. I don't know what that is.
I'm clear to me, but you're not. Let me make
I don't know.
sure.
Should we try again? Someone just said the sound is great. We can hear Elsa. Can you hear me, guys? It's working. Audio's working for us. They hear good. They just can't see us. Oh well. So we can
Well,
talk and maybe the image will come back.
I met Nina through Rachel Kareen and Harmony Kareen, who live in Miami.
Right.
And uh, I mean, when I first met Nina, her gallery space is incredible, and she's so cool and so amazing that she's able to safely do this, put on a show during this crazy time. I mean, she's a real badass. It's amazing, and I'm
Yeah. She
really
is just.
feel fortunate to have met her and to be working with her.
And tell me about the timing of this whole shutdown. Did you get here to install the show before all this happened, or what happened?
We're supposed to be down there,
Right.
and we're supposed to be down there to install it, but I just had to ship everything. And she opened up the gallery, left, let the installer come in and install it. The installer left, then she closed. I think it's kind of like kind
Yeah.
of a,
So how did you get to see it? How have you just from still shots after? Did you give any direction of how you wanted it? And
no, no.
wow. So you just had to close your eyes
Yeah,
and
no,
let her do it.
I'm really
Because how does it usually go for you installing a show?
I oftentimes leave it up to the gallerist.
Oh,
I
you
like
do.
yeah.
You
I
are a rare artist, Elsa.
I, I like I like other people's input a lot, and
Mhm.
and I feel like they know their space better than I do, and I've never been disappointed.
Yeah. So I want to talk about how that you and I have actually known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
And you may not even remember when we first met, you were wearing a park ranger's uniform.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about that summer and that you were
That's
a park
that's
ranger in New York?
work. I was going to school in Kentucky and to be a park ranger, studying outdoor recreation, and my older sister lived in the Bronx, and to be with her, I decided to make my internship with the urban park rangers, which are so cool in New York City. Uh, and I got the internship and moved to New York and then stayed there for a long time.
Yeah. So, but how was that your first time in New York, becoming a park ranger? Because it's such a cool way to be in New York City, to
Yeah,
be.
yeah. I had done like a summer camp at Juilliard for days in high school,
Uh-huh.
but that was my first like New York living experience, definitely.
And I was just thinking about it because we're all indoors at this moment. And so much of your background and your interest had been outdoors. And so first of all, how did that happen? Did you grow up in the outdoors? How did that become even part of your life to think about being a ranger? And
I always wanted to, I thought that I always wanted to have a physical job outside.
mm-hmm.
And I ended up becoming an embroidery artist. So
Physical job, very inside.
very inside and only slightly physical, but
So actually, is that something you can do outside? How much equipment do you need right with you to do embroidery?
too much. I take it outside as often as I can. You just need the fabric and a blanket and a needle and thread. I take it with me a lot because my life is I travel a lot with my
Yeah.
husband and
Yes.
musician and goes on tour and just lots of travel. And it's nice to have it portable.
So have embroidery will travel. Do you have a special suitcase or something you take it in?
Yeah, yeah. A bag.
And sorry to be so ignorant about these things, but is it like other kinds of instruments and things where there can be an older one that has a history and belong to someone, or are the tools all new, modern? They have no kind of particular history or.
I have some old things that I found at yard sales that feel like they have a lot of history to them. And but the coolest part is the fabrics that people give to me, like their great grandmother's old linen and just all these old linens that people don't use anymore. A lot of people pass them on to me, and I love putting them in quilts.
Oh wow! So that's a thing that people do, is share fabrics that they have some story and history. And
Yes,
so
absolutely.
all right, so can you tell us a story about some really amazing fabric someone gave you,
I mean, I don't
or
know
even just how it happens?
stories, but it's really fun to get to use them.
Yeah.
And
And
I love
so
my
when
own.
you get fabrics, do you have lots of fabrics in your studio?
Yes. Hmm.
And then when you decided, we'll go through the process. So maybe I can even share. Let's see if I can actually share photos. Yes, it looks like I can. We'll see if I can actually get. Uh-oh. Oh well. Instagram does not make it easy to share photos because it only lets me do my camera feed instead of what I have an album of all your stuff, but I can't show that. What I can show though, can you talk about this? I don't. Can you see this? It's the Atari grid. Can
Yeah.
you can you talk about that?
Well, for me, that was one of the first things I ever stitched was like 8-bit video game images because cross stitch is done on a grid and that's how I decided and I realized video games are done on a grid, 8-bit grid as well. So I started using those patterns when I first started stitching.
Hey, I'm going to hook up something really homemade. I don't know, can you see this? So I have just turned my iPad around to see my computer screen, which actually does have some images of your work on it. Does that show up? Do you see that?
I can't. I can see something. Yeah, I think that's the South Pacific piece.
Yeah, this is it, right, with Robert Louis Stevenson, Paul Gauguin, and Fletcher Christian. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you, well, so one of the things I actually wanted to talk about, since there are three right here, is I'm fascinated by the connections that happen in your work to the ways poetry works. Because, first of all, you are really fascinated by the rhyming of language and personality, names, and then you structure things in pairs and in threes and even like 16 Elsas. But one of the things that really has intrigued me always about your work is this thing. Do you know about the rule of three?
No.
So this ancient thing called the rule of three. Was this Latin mathematicians thing, and they called it omnium trium perfectum. Like everything is perfect in threes. And we think about it like there's Goldilocks and Three Bears, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, when you catch on fire, there's stop, drop, and roll. You know, I came, I saw, they're all, and then like three guys walked into a bar. It's like this really common kind of trope, and it happens in
Magic
language
number.
and in poetry too. When you're often writing a list of things, there are often like three things that you just put, and so that happens a lot in your work. Was that, how did that occur? Was it just like natural thing, or the structuring of groups like this?
That for this show, it was a conscious effort to make groups of three.
Because the show's called, sorry, I should tell everybody again, the show's called Trinity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a reflection on my new family number because I had a kid while I was working on this show.
Yes.
Um, and I've often done twos a lot, and I wanted to sort of expand and do threes. And it is a more fun form. It was just a sort of fun boundary for me to work within.
Mm-hmm. And so tell us about having a baby.
It's the most wonderful thing, and it's really hard too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And so how old now?
She is 16 months. Do you want to meet her real quick? I want to show her to you.
Yes, yes, we want to see.
Puppy! Say hello, puppy! There's Tom.
Say hi.
Wait, is she?
I hope we didn't just wake her. Oh, hi. She's getting a bath.
Yeah, she's having a bath.
Hi. Wow. You got, hey, how are you?
Normally, I would probably be doing this at my studio, but my brother is quarantining there right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So he just came back and.
He's living in New York and wanted to get out of New York.
Sure. And so he's doing the 2 week thing there. And so we jumped right into talking about art in your show, which I really, somebody just said, don't drop the phone in the tub. But how are you guys doing, and how has this affected your day-to-day life and family?
About that too, it's really crazy. It's really hard and really awesome. It's full on parenting because before we were working and she was going to school and she had a nanny, and now there's none of that.
Yeah.
And it's nice because we get to spend a lot of time together, but it's also just figuring out a new reality completely. How has your reality changed?
Well, it's strange that we're talking to you from Miami, which I saw the sunshine where you are, and it's absolutely beautiful here. And you're supposed to shelter in place, and March has been an extraordinary month. But it's at the same time, that any friend of yours who's works as a healthcare professional is working 20 hours a day in these incredible circumstances and being heroic. And there are people without food and people left and right who've lost their jobs. And so it's a radical disconnect. We're extremely privileged and really aware of that, but it's a harsh time. And then you talk to people in cities like London or Rome or New York where people are really, really shut down.
I know.
So,
Right.
um,
And you were already in Miami.
yes, we were here. My mom, who's 80, is here with us. She's on too. Hi, Mom. Um, so yeah, so it's a crazy time, and as I'm sure with musicians and artists, a lot of the ways they've made their living have just come to a quick halt.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
terrifying. I keep hoping it'll very, very, very soon, but it's scary.
it is. So how has that affected the rhythm of your work life? And do you have a schedule? Like that's one of those questions. I love those questions. How artists work when they start and what they do.
Yeah, I love
Before all this craziness,
about
what would be your routine?
my routine would be wake up, get everybody fed for breakfast, take the baby to school. She has this adorable little sweet school situation for socialization.
Whoops.
Go to work, and then come home and make dinner, and then bath time and bedtime.
Yeah. So you really treat it like going to the studio as a job, the full day,
Yeah,
and you come back. Yeah.
yeah.
And so how does that happen? Oh, and tell people because there's a great story about where your home is and your studio, and you guys both work in the same studio and things. Could you talk about that a little?
Yeah, my husband and I work in a house that's 3 blocks away from where we live, and there's a park in between. And I work in one room, and he works in the next room.
Yeah.
It's
And
just
don't you call it like one house different name and then the other? I thought I read somewhere.
Vernon and Coral.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah.
So what has changed about your practice of making work and thinking about art while you're home
There's
now?
no time. I mean, there's really no time. She sleeps for about an hour and a half a day, and that's when I have time to like do anything I need to do. And then it's full on. I haven't made all of my work is mental right now.
Yeah. Hmm. Do you keep a notebook?
Yeah,
Do you draw sketches of things before you actually do them?
yes. And then
Yeah.
a lot of lists of names.
Hmm. Cool. So no, that experience of motherhood and parenting, that was that Virginia Woolf's famous book, A Room of One's Own, that whole idea that you can have the freedom to work. And so many women writers that I know, they actually got their real established career and often even their fame later in life after they were able to raise a family. And so um, that idea of being in it and trying to scoop out the time for art is something I'm sure a lot of people are
Yeah.
familiar with.
I read this book called Daily Rituals Women at Work. I think there's a broader one and then there's a female one. by Mason Curry, and it's really fun to read about everyone's ritual. And then I want to make a piece of mothers who are able to carve out time. And maybe it gets easier when your kid gets older, but it's certainly
Not right now.
yeah. I can't.
Yeah.
I have so much respect for stay-at-home parents and that are able to do it.
So speaking about your baby, can I asked you when we talked to kind of set this up about the mural that's behind you?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little?
Yes. This is my godmother. Well, I guess my godmother-in-law, Tanya Vartan, and she's an incredible artist. She is a trefoil artist, and she's an interior decorator, and you should check her out on Instagram. She's truly amazing. Truly
And was this a surprise, or did you talk about what she was going to make, or?
No, she just was said that she wanted to create something for our house, test it out, and she just sort of told us what she was going to do.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It reminds me of like Leonora Carrington's house, the Bloomsbury group, and the way they had everything painted. Even the vocabulary of the painting looks somewhat like that.
Yeah, she's amazing. She can paint anything. This one is sort of like a cross between Gauguin and Dr.
So I'm sorry I can't show more of your images, or actually, because I guess if I do this from my computer, you couldn't really see them, right?
Not super well.
Not super well.
Yeah, you can see that.
Oh, you can? Okay. So
Yeah.
let me see if I can move this a little. Shh. Oh yeah, so that's a close-up.
Yeah.
So, and that's from the South Seas one. So
Yeah.
these are just random that the gallery sent me. So can you, if I flip up anything, can you give us a little thoughts about some of this? And
Sure. Well, I'm very taken with the adventurers that moved down to the South Seas. I read the Bounty trilogy recently. That was
oh
fun.
wow, yeah.
Just such a fun read. And I love thinking about their adventures. Oh, and I read the Paul Gauguin biography by Somerset Maugham.
Yeah.
That's very fun. And yeah, I just wanted to put them together because I hold them all in my eyes.
I think that's so cool that you would like this early 20th century British, almost like post-Victorian writer like Somerset Maugham. Beautiful. How did you discover reading him?
I think my husband introduced me to that biography.
Oh wow.
I think he's just somebody that sort of comes up in other people's writing.
Yeah,
So
very much so. All right, so here, like, now this is actually a quilt, even though the image is small. And many of the images I'd seen of yours, and there's some of the show too, they started small, like handheld size.
Yeah.
And when did you start making full quilts like this?
Well, the first thing I ever made was a big quilt.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're just very time consuming and labor intensive, so I'm only able to make so many a year.
A year?
Yeah. Like, I can make 2 a year.
Wow. And when you're committing to something like that, do you do other things that are faster in between, or do you?
Yeah, those are the other piece. Yeah. But
And so this to me is like a skyscraper being built. And when a skyscraper is being built, the architecture doesn't change midway. Do you change do you say like, oh, this isn't really, I want to change it in some way?
oh yeah, it's changing up until the last stitch.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
It's not
So how this, we just got a shout out from Nina, whose Instagram account I've hijacked, and it's her gallery where this show is. Hi, Nina. And she said there are two quilts in the show.
yeah.
So can you talk about what? Tell us about this one, which nobody can see the images, but they can see.
All
Guess.
from Kentucky. And I'd been working on this quilt for about a year, and it finally got to a finishing place in time for this show. Um, and that's why it's on this show. But
It really was touch and go.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
And
And
so, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Kentucky, and I just wanted to celebrate some personalities from here. And Nina suggested I make a Floridian one, and I'm very excited about that because
Oh my God, yes.
I mean, the possibilities are, gosh, there's so many cool Floridians.
So my partner Fred collects these old uh, tablecloths and often napkins that were used in the 40s and 50s as tourist gifts and memorabilia and things. So, but he gets these whole giant tablecloths that will have this a whole state on it,
Cool.
and then so there'll be the shape of the state in the background, but then there'll be little people here and there, little events that show you. So there'd be a little Disney World, and there'd be an alligator, or there'd be, but um, there are those things that when you think of a state or any kind of territory, there are always like some cliches, or even just not even necessarily cliches, but like if you are mountain climbing, there are things that like are stakes in the stone that you'd hold on to when you think of Kentucky or Florida or something.
Hmm.
And then people like this. So when you were doing Kentucky, what had to be in it?
Well, Muhammad Ali had to be in it.
Yes. Who was also in Florida. This is where he trained in Miami.
I didn't know that. Yeah,
Yes,
see,
his
the
famous
Florida
gym
quilt
is
is
right here in Miami Beach.
wow,
His street gym.
wow.
On
Yeah,
a good day without social distancing, we could walk there together. But next time you come, we'll go there together.
yeah, yeah.
Nina, we'll go there, won't we? Okay. So yes, so
If I
Muhammad Ali
did this one,
had to be there.
wouldn't had to be born here. But I think if I did a Florida one, there's so many great transplants to Florida.
Yes.
I don't know.
And then there's the whole weird phenomena. Do you follow this of the Florida man?
No,
Like, oh, you have to Google this. It's a whole phenomenon now. People do just the craziest things of crimes or just inept things and get arrested for it. And the headline has been for years,
oh,
Florida man
I think
falls into tank of alligators, or Florida man,
yes.
and so it's become a whole crazy meme. Nina just said Florida man such as Tom Healy. So, okay, so one picture I do want to show you, I want to try to go back because speaking of me and you, whoops, that's not it at all. Sorry. I have, because we've known each other so long, I actually own 3 of your works. And I wanted to show you where they are in my, I'll get back to it. It's quick, sorry. Where'd it go? Where'd it go? Oh, I don't know. Sorry, it's gone. Anyway, I'll go back to this. So, can you tell us? All right, I wanted to talk about this picture with
The goddess Pele.
yes
Yeah.
on the volcano.
Yes. So
Now, I don't see a lot of fiery orange and reds in much of your embroidery. this seems like this startled me because it seemed like it was actually burning.
Yeah, it's really bright.
Yeah, I love it.
Thank you.
So can you talk about this one?
Yeah, I was an artist in residence at the National Parks Artist in Residency program on Kilauea on the Big Island of Hawaii. And that is Pele's home. And it was still erupting at the time, and every night there was this big, bright orange glow. It was just so beautiful.
Really, you could see it from where you were.
Yeah, we even had friends that were coming up to visit us, and they called the fire department because they thought everything was burning, but it was just the glow from the pit volcano. And the three women on the side are keepers of the flame, which they are women who were dedicated to keeping Hawaii tradition alive before it was corrupted by outsiders. And so the first woman, Auntie Edith, is an incredible traditional singer. And the second woman is a librarian in charge of preserving a lot of Hawaiian language. And then the third woman is the greatest hula dancer, considered the greatest hula dancer. But
so wait, which of these women is alive?
they are all very recently
deceased. And how did you find out about them?
Just from being there and going to the libraries there and just researching Hawaiian culture.
So one of the things that's cool about this one that is so true about all of this work, and I want to ask you about it, it's for me who doesn't know how to make anything, it's fascinating. These are still stitched threads and on fabric. And yet you create this intense sense of motion that feels like it's really happening. Like, and look at this hula dancer. That doesn't seem static to me in a material that feels like it would be static. So is that hard to do? Does the embroidery and the fabric resist making motion, or how do you think through all that?
I design a sort of gridded Atari-looking 8-bit thing on graph paper, and then while I'm
like that thing,
like that, and then while I'm stitching, I just keep adding thread to make it more fluid.
Right. You have some images where there's actually loose thread that stays on the, or that feels like drawing. Well, even here, like the volcano itself. How is that different from doing other things that are?
That's like sort of a straight stitch embroidery as compared to a cross stitch.
Okay.
So it's like drawing freeform.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And so, how did you learn to embroider?
I just taught myself from kits that I bought at Walmart or Michael's or something. And I got very fed up with how incredibly complicated the pattern was. And it was all monotone. It was all in one color and tiny little symbols in little squares depicting a color that you need to use. And I sort of gave up on the pattern and started designing my own.
And so how would this was as you were adult or a kid?
An adult.
Oh wow.
It was when I was collaborating with Van Neistat and Tom Sachs and a lot of movie making going on.
Right.
Editing and downtime during editing.
Oh, so downtime during all that tedious editing stuff, and you wanted something physical.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's so cool to know.
Patches for the Tom Sachs crew and just
Yeah.
keep embroidering stuff.
Uh-huh. So one of the things, I'm being a writer, I'm obsessed with words. And so I looked up the etymology of embroidery. And it's a really cool history from early German words. And embroider means like M is the in. So it's inbraiding, like braiding into a fabric. And do you know where the word braid comes from? It's the coolest thing. I was just so surprised. It means a twitch of your eye.
Wow.
And that's because there's like this
Uh,
quick movement, like a stitch.
that's beautiful.
Isn't that? And that whole idea of a stitch in time, everything comes from the fact that like you blink your eye, twitch your eye, and then embroidery comes from that. And that was so cool to me to think about when you do these static two-dimensional works that obviously take, as you said, up to a year to do, and yet they're so full of movement. And it seemed to me it's even in the word embroidery itself.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's really cool.
So I'm hogging the screen and the time stuff. I'm not exactly sure how we ask questions except if I follow the feed. But for people who are watching, if you have a question for Elsa, put it on the screen and she'll be able to answer.
I don't see anything coming through.
No, I don't either. Oh, here. Well, someone says they love us both. I like that.
I like that.
Okay. And so, wait, I want to find, though, Elsa, while we're doing this, the, oh, yes, here I have it. So I'm going to actually turn this around to see. So here is my
Oh,
Elsa Hansen Oldham shrine. This is at our house in Connecticut, and these are the 3 works of yours that I own.
oh, cool.
Isn't that cool? I mean, and that was long because I can't get to that house, and this is um, long before you were. This is an amazing piece. Could you talk about this from Wonder Woman? Do
I,
you remember this piece?
who else? Who else? Larry Clark's on there. Medea.
Yes.
Who else is on there? Uh,
Lewis Thomas. So it goes.
cool.
Yeah. And this feels like, to me, what I loved about it when I got it felt like a medieval painting where there were discrete moments, but the whole story, over time is told on one canvas.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we have some questions. I want to know a little bit about how you choose the characters. And there's so many wonderful details, the clothing of the characters. There's so many wonderful specific details like plaids and colors. So the clothing of each character.
I try to find the most iconic image. I do a lot of Google image searching, and I like to, even though they're tiny. And then also what colors I feel like working with play a big part.
The colors that you already are happy you're working with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so how do you choose your threads?
I like to use silk thread because that feels the best and it's smoother and faster and more beautiful. And there's a company that makes just about every color that you can think of called Splendor.
Oh, yeah. Do you ever want to name your own colors?
No.
So we just got a question. How often do people pitch ideas to you? Like like we just sold this Florida idea. I admit we oversold it. It's annoying to artists to have. I just, but the question was how often that happens.
All the time. All the time.
Oh no.
I always appreciate.
And how do you answer it politely?
I always appreciate it because it's fun to think about. And sometimes the suggestions are really great.
Yeah.
Like early on, Carlton DeWoody suggested that I do one that I ended up making, and Kyle DeWoody ended up buying. And she didn't realize that her brother had suggested it. And it was.
Oh, that's a really nice story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's well, Kyle, if you're watching. Yeah. So what's for dinner tonight? Are you waiting for dinner for us?
We just had lentil soup. How about you?
Oh, nice. Well, I can't boil water, but Fred is a great cook and my mom is a great cook and they both cook. So, but in this moment, like where shopping's in, Fred is really organized. I'm not. And so he plans out when, this thing will deliver and how long before that and how long. And so if you looked at our calendar, it would show you for lunch and dinner what we're having for the next week.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's always delicious. It's always, but I don't even look because I like it to be a surprise.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I guess
So,
you probably have to be getting to dinner.
yeah, it's time soon.
I've got to go put the baby to bed.
Yes, I hope she's still not in the bathtub. Oh, but it's been so wonderful talking with you, Elsa. And I'm sorry I'm not better at the Instagram Live, but I hope I'll get there.
Such an honor to know you and to speak with you. Thank you
Oh,
so much.
all the best to you, and talk to you soon. Lots of love.
Bye.
Bye.